everyone. This feels more closer than home than you guys think. I probably sit on that desk over there, so it's very, very close. But it's wonderful to be here. My name is Gorjan. I am originally from a very small country called Macedonia. How many of you have heard of Macedonia? Oh, thank God. Okay. How many of you have been to Macedonia? Why would you do that to yourselves? It's a wonderful country. No, it's a wonderful country. After this talk, I'll convince you otherwise, but still, wonderful. So for those of you who've been there, you might see some of this familiar. Because when I was 15, a young little guy, during our cold and kind of groggy, crappy winters in Macedonia, I wasn't allowed to leave any windows or doors of my house open. And the reason, because we weren't afraid to let the heat escape. It was more because we didn't want to let in the so-called smelly fog. Now, for those of you who haven't been to Macedonia, or at least during the winter, here's a picture of Skopje, my home city, and I can assure you that the city is there. You just can't really see it because of the smelly fog. When I used to ask my parents about it, what they would say is, you know what? This happens every winter. Spring will come. This will all go away. So really don't put too much thought into it. And I didn't. Until 4 years ago, when a pile of seemingly unimportant data would change my life and transform my country. Now, the key word there was data. You know, we're at a data conference. Everyone loves data. And in this day and age of technology, we create and collect data at an enormous pace. I'm sure all of you know IBM. They ran a study which they found that daily, we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. To transform that into layman's terms, that's 40 million copies of Wikipedia written daily. It's a huge amount of data. Some of this is available to us, the mere mortals, the public, through either online or offline open data sets. For example, here in the Netherlands, the Ministry of Internal Affairs offers 13,000 of these open data sets on ranging topics, from politics to culture to health to the economy. Everything you can imagine is there. And this is a huge amount of data. But then the question becomes, are we really putting it to good use? Now, being a bored 21-year-old college student back home, forced to stay indoors during winter because of the smelly fog, I was searching for my next project to do. As I was looking up online, I stumbled upon a little government website which featured these local open data sets. And as I riffled through the titles, one caught my eye in particular: air pollution dataset. Now, being the geek that I am, I quickly download this data and I wrote a little algorithm which would analyze and kind of tell me what's there, what is it trying to hide, because it was in a garbled JSON format. But I had a problem with this algorithm. I had a bug. I couldn't get rid of it because it was constantly giving me unrealistic numbers. I mean, it was telling me that air pollution in Macedonia was 20 times over the EU limit. I mean, it was 4 times over Beijing. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. It's unrealistic. It was true. My country was suffocating at the hands of an invisible enemy. All that smelly fog, that was smog. But at this point, the data was out there, it was public. So where are the news stories? Where are people on social media? Where are protesters on the streets? Silence. What I learned that day was very logical when I think about it, but also very powerful. The data, it was out there. And it was telling a horrific story. But because it was being presented in such a complex and incomprehensible way, for the average user, it wasn't adding any value. On the contrary, it was just being overlooked. I couldn't stand by and watch this happen to my country. I took it upon myself to find out a way of presenting this raw data, which is already existing, in a readable and understandable way to the general public, so it gets its message across. My solution to the problem was Moj Vozduh, or My Air, a web and mobile app, which simply takes this raw data and with the help of visualizations, charts, graphs, and colors, displays it to the average user and tries to inform them of the situation that is going on in my home country. I published this app, and 1 month later, the results were amazing. More than 1 million people had access to this data, either through the 2 mobile apps, the web app, or simply by watching the news, which was finally starting to pick up on the subject. People were shocked, naturally. People were outraged. Some even said I was lying. We had the then Minister of Ecology go on TV and say, you know what, don't trust Gorjan, don't trust Moj Vozduk, he's lying, he's being paid by the Americans and by Soros to spread lies, like, you know, angry little child tantrum. I didn't even know about this. I get a call from a reporter saying, hey, do you want to give a counterstatement? I'm like, to what? So he explains what happened. I'm like, sure, I'll give a counterstatement. So I go back and I say, all right, Minister, I'll give you an idea. How about you and me sit down in front of the media, I'll open my app and you can open your government website, and we'll compare the data. If the data differs, I'll shut down the app, I'll burn all the code I've written, I'll throw the servers out the windows. But if the data's the same, then you resign. Guess who was never heard from again? I mean, when you don't know what you're talking about. At this point, Macedonia is not such an amazing country, and they could have gone down the kind of corrupt government path that we had at that point and locked me up for whatever false accusations. But the problem was, this data was out there. It was public on their own servers. So by them locking up the messenger, they weren't going to stop what was about to happen. The next winter, people were outraged by the government's unwillingness to do anything about this problem. What we did is we took to the streets of 5 biggest cities in Macedonia, protesting, trying to raise awareness among our people that this is a huge problem. Even better, oh, by the way, this was like 5 seconds before I started throwing eggs at the government. They question, I don't know why they don't like me. It was not only us. We even had politicians in parliament waving around screenshots of the app, trying to convince their own colleagues that this is no longer a political issue, nor is it a gender, nor is it a racial issue, because what unites us all in this is that we all breathe the same air. There's no escape from it. At one point, we had scientists come down from Sweden and run analysis on the pollution data and the effects that it was having on public health. And what they came up with was this number. 3,000 yearly premature deaths directly attributed to air pollution. 3,000 of my fellow citizens, 3,000 of my friends, and 3,000 of my family. Let me ask you all a question, especially for those of you who are from the Netherlands, but this goes to everyone. How many of you have opened your phones this week and checked the weather to understand if it's going to rain outside? With the raise of hands, how many of you have done this? Exactly. Please keep your hands up and look around you. Imagine that all of you here are living in Macedonia, and instead of keeping your hands up for checking the weather on your phone, you're trying to understand if the air outside is even safe to leave your homes. Let that sink in. Macedonia may be far in the east of Europe, and our problem may be far greater, but EU countries like the Netherlands aren't out of the woods either. Just last year, the courts ruled that the Dutch state must find more ways of getting clean air, because if nothing's done, it'll take way until 2030 before the EU set goals for clean air are reached by the Netherlands. And until then, the European Environmental Agency estimates that more than 11,000 people will prematurely die every year, directly attributed to air pollution from the roadways, households, and from the industry. But it's not all that dark. Because we live in a day and age of technology, and we have access to all this data, we as citizens are now more than ever empowered to act. By utilizing open data sets like the one I used in Macedonia, we are now able to run our own analysis, come up with our own conclusions, and lobby for changes all by ourselves. And we don't even have to let the sky be the limit. I crossed this barrier, and I'm now working together with data from the European Space Agency to analyze satellite pollution data and pinpoint exact pollutant sources on the ground, which ground sensors can't pick up. A funny story, one of these pollutant sources was recently discovered in my home city, a medical trash incinerator. The problem? It was donated to Macedonia by the UK in 2001. And if we were to set up this exact medical trash incinerator within the EU, it would be legal to operate it because of its high emission levels. We were very surprised because The Guardian caught on to this back in 2001, and no one really said anything. And it was only recently discovered by using satellite data. It's sad to see this, but it also gives me hope because we were able to protest our way of forcing the government to put correct filters on this facility and lower its impact that it has on our lives. This was kind of my story and what happened in my country. But what I ask from you guys, because you all love data, that's one of the reasons why you're here, go online and look at all this open data that's already available out there. See what catches your eye, what triggers your interest, and spend some time in analyzing it. Because I will guarantee you that every single open data set out there hides secrets waiting for adventurers like you guys to discover them. As for me, there will be two things happening. One, we've had great success in Macedonia with the AIR app. We've really awoken the people. We've tackled 3 points of not only informing, but educating and empowering people to act. And since we're not the only country fighting this problem, we're planning to now expand. This is the first time ever I show screenshots in public. The AIR app is coming to the Netherlands. We are coming here. Thank you. This will be just the start of our journey where we try to fight for more clean air, because I honestly believe that clean air is a human right. And the second thing, this winter, apart from pushing the movement here in the Netherlands, I will be back on the streets in Macedonia, shoulder to shoulder with 3,000 of my fellow activists, continuing to fight a war against an invisible enemy. There has been progress, but there's still a long way to go until we can literally breathe at ease, and data is the pathway that'll take us there. Thank you.
So this is why we like data activism talks. So we still have a large amount of time for questions before lunch. I'll start with the first person.
Why did the government open access to that data set in the first place?
Very good question. So we have 17 measuring stations in Macedonia, and they were all donated by the EU. So the government had to put them online, like it or not. And what they did initially when placing them, they had only one source of information, which was a billboard in the center of the city, which can tell you how polluted it is. And when people first realized this, the problem, the severity of the problem, they started movements and protests. And then that billboard went into repairs. 7 years, we're still repairing that billboard. So the government wasn't really fond, but they had to because this was a donation from the EU. And since we are a non-EU country, it's one of the requirements that we have to get membership status. So they were kind of forced, which was good for the people.
Can you tell us something about how you got the first app out, and especially in how you got it popular?
Right. So the app wasn't even meant to go, not viral, but just to be out there. It was a project. I was learning Android. This is my first Android app, so I was learning how to code, and I thought, oh, this information would be useful to show at least to my friends and kind of inform them what's going on. So it was social media that kind of took it off. It was word to mouth communication. It was definitely not a marketing campaign, because we posted it out there and people could see the pollution outside. They were aware that pollution was there. They were not aware how bad it is. And by having access to this app, people started panicking, of course. What happened was it spread through social media by the use of, maybe I can show you. I'm not sure that our screenshot here has that. So we have the circle, which kind of fills up the worse the air gets. And this circle during winter Macedonia is full red all the time, full red circle. And that full red circle became a symbol of this app. So people started putting a full red circle on their profile pictures around their face, saying, hey, it's really, really bad. So it was social media, and just because of the social impact of the app, that it started spreading around. Of course, after that, we partnered up with organizations in Macedonia that also fight this problem and help spread the app further. But it was word-to-mouth communication.
I can imagine you're not the only. It's really weird to stand next to the speaker. I can imagine you're not the only person doing this sort of data activism, and I can imagine that you may have spoken to several other people that are doing similar things. What are some of the other sort of more inspirational things that people might need to look at when they're looking for more things like this?
I think there's a lot. There's a lot. So definitely, first of all, Macedonia isn't the only country facing a problem like this. Second of all, there's a lot of stuff people can do with activism. One thing that's going on, for example, now in Macedonia, which I really like, there's a political counter, which I'm also involved in. We took all the promises from the mayor of my city, of the capital city of Macedonia. We put them in a really nice sheet online and a really nice website which kind of explains everything, and then we put a counter: how long have you been in office versus how long have you actually fulfilled all these things, what have you fulfilled from all these promises, which again takes data, presents it more clearly to people, and tells them, hey, promises are one, but have they actually done anything about this? So there's a lot of examples online of people doing this, and countries like China, for example, which also is battling this. India is battling pollution like this. And I was surprised to see that Europe is also not the cleanest of places. So there's a lot of data out there. All you guys need to do, just go online, see what your country's data offers, and have some fun with it. Because believe me, either from a very sad and kind of dark cause like this, we were able to change people's lives, hopefully for the better in the long run.
Any other questions? Ooh, all the way in the back.
Is there any way to contribute to the air app for the Netherlands, or can we help out somehow?
For sure.
Please repeat the question for the audio.
Right. So is there any way that you can contribute to the Air app in the Netherlands and help out? For sure. So the Air app is run kind of by me, and I have one of my friends that's helping out with coding. So it's kind of a 1.5-man endeavor. So we definitely need all the help that we can get. It's a market that I've been living here for 3 years now, so I don't know it that well yet. And any help from local NGOs, from local people, from anyone, just to spread the word, to help us out understand what is the more local issues that are causing air pollution here, and to help us fight this cause better, is more than appreciated. If anyone has any ideas, please come talk to me in the break, and I'm more than happy to partner up and engage in this, because I think it's a critical battle that should be fought.
So you've got large, widespread publicity around this back in Macedonia. What kind of outcomes are happening now and hopefully over the next couple of years?
Right. So initially, this app launched when we had an older government which didn't like this idea at all. So it was kind of pushed down. People were saying it was a lie. We had a change of government, which one of their election promises was they're going to do something about the air. I'm annoyed to say that was just another government promise that's not really being fulfilled. As much as they can say we've planted 10 trees, I'm like, wow, good job, guys, you've saved the world now. They've done stuff. They've forced this medical trash incinerator to have better filters on them, which was kind of one of the major causes. They're looking into ideas of subsidizing pellets that you can kind of burn instead of burning wood, which is one of the major causes in Macedonia for pollution. That you can do more stuff like that. So it's slowly coming together, but I think that it's. I think it's. I think in the end it's people pressure, which will make this change. And once we get satellite data, we're able to pinpoint stuff exactly where that's going on. There's no more hiding from ground sensors, which data could be also possibly polluted by, because it's in government control. So it's always scary what is going on with that data. But I think slowly there's change, and the more pressure and the more publicity that you apply to this topic, the more chances are that the government will actually start to act on it.
Why is Macedonia so polluted? Why isn't the other Balkan states not as polluted? So,
They are. I'm sorry to say they are. I've looked into the data of majority of Balkan states. We are all facing the same issues. A lot of the Balkan states aren't in the EU. So we're not following all these legislations and laws that they should have been there for clean environment. All the cars that are banned in the EU, we import them. All the trash that's banned to be burned in the EU, we buy it and burn it for some reason. I don't know why we think that's a good business model. It's a combination of, again, no laws for environment stuff, and a natural phenomenon that occurs during winter. So this picture here, this is part of the natural phenomenon. It's called temperature inversion. So what you have is hot air from the ground rising from heating sources. You got cold air because it's winter, and they create kind of a lid on top. Macedonia is surrounded by mountains, which doesn't allow airflow to go through. So you have all the pollution that's building up, it's just staying down there underneath this thing. And it's not only our country that's fighting this problem. So hopefully we'll be able to spread this app around other countries as well in the Balkans and kind of say, hey guys, I'm sorry, but it's not only us. We all need to kind of lead a fight into this. It was kind of sad. This is my home city, and there's a little mountain over there that kind of overlooks the city. And on the mountain we have a cross, like the Millennium Cross, on top. So what we joke about is this is like a cemetery. They put a cross on top and they buried the country. So we have very dark humor because that's all that's left to do. And we even have a gondola that takes you up to the cross, and we call it Stairway to Heaven, because you kind of you literally can go through the pollution out into clear, in the open clear skies, and that's just a surreal feeling. But yeah, it's not just us, and hopefully we'll be able to get more people involved, because it's a terrible thing.
Then maybe a final question to help get people motivated. This is a picture and it's obviously bad. But let's look at our own country then. How bad is it here? I mean, I just saw a demo of the app, and I can imagine that we're supposed to be adhering to some standards and there's a bit more laws and stuff. How worried should we be? We live in the center of Amsterdam, probably the cleanest air in the world, right?
Well, off topic. No, so the Netherlands is definitely far better than what Macedonia is. We in winter walk around with masks, so this is much better. But honestly, I was surprised that as I was looking at the data, judging by the amount of bikes here and the rain and the wind, you would expect it to be very clean. But apparently, it's not that good. So the Netherlands is hovering around the top limit that the EU has set on what's acceptable with pollution, and the Netherlands hovering around the top limit. Sometimes it'll break a bit more, of course, not 20 times, but still it'll be there. So the problem is, if nothing's done, then this actually may even break over the top limit of what is allowed as safe pollution in cities around the EU. So that's one of the ideas that we aim to show with this app is we believe that it's pretty clean outside, but even this amount of pollution, which is hovering around the top limit, may cause health effects to people here, and it can cause some sort of social pressure to put on these sources of pollution to get rid of it. So I'm more than happy, because I live here now for 3 years, and I'm part of this. I feel part of this community. I would be more than happy to spread this message across and say, hey guys, I'm here. I really want to help out and work with you to even make better and greener environment and make kind of the Netherlands a very, very green place that it is supposed to be in the first place.
And just to be clear, so the European standard that we're supposed to adhere to, where if I were to say in the middle of Amsterdam, which is probably one of the dirtier places to be, that's not exceeding the limit, or is it that we average the entire country and say, well, we take the entire green spec, we average that with Amsterdam?
No, so there, no, definitely not. So Amsterdam has quite a few measuring stations, and the Netherlands in general, I think, has over 100. So that's very good because you've got a lot of data points that you can compare, and you can definitely see hotspots. Amsterdam is not one of them, which is lucky. You got Rotterdam with the ports, you got some of the seasides as well. You can really see concentrations of pollution happening there, or areas where you have a lot of factories, kind of outside of the cities as well. But just to give you an example, so the limit is 50 micrograms per meter square of PM10. Nonetheless, just imagine the number 50. The Netherlands is at around 40 to 50 in that range. It hovers, Amsterdam at least hovers around that age. Macedonia is in the thousands. So yeah, that's why I thought it was a bug. Unfortunately, it's not. So yes, there's Amsterdam is not bad for sure, but it could be improved.
Please give a great round of applause.